From an X-rated movie to a hidden treasure, here are 23 secrets and Easter eggs you missed in Project Zomboid. For instance, did you know that there's a series of haunted videotapes that talk about a creature so scary it will chase you to the ends of the earth? Yes, I'm talking about the Dog Goblin, a mysterious beast you can summon by calling its name 4 times while looking into a pool of moonlit water. Sounds suspiciously similar to Bloody Mary. Now, treasure hunting may not be your first priority in the zombie apocalypse, but if you do find yourself in the Louisville Mausoleum, make sure to check out the massive pallet of gold hidden behind one of the walls. The pallet is called The Ecstasy of Gold, which is a reference to a song from the film The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Too bad it's not worth much anymore. The real treasure in Project Zomboid is hidden in one of the houses. If you're lucky enough to come across it, you'll be set for the rest of the apocalypse. Set for toilet paper, that is. This hilarious reference to the COVID pandemic is randomly spawned, but you'll know it as soon as you see it because every corner of the house will be filled with toilet paper and nothing else. Hey, at least you don't have to worry about fuel. Now, the most boring sounding VHS tape in history, titled Mathematical Quadratics and Algebraic Configurations, is actually the start of a prawn movie. At first, there's this professor talking, and then suddenly, bam, a new scene with a plumber who comes in to fix this woman's broken faucet with his big pipe and drain snake. You'll also get some long blunt experience from watching it. Anyway. Another tape where you can find unexpected experience is the Mother's Boy Classic VHS. In it, a character called Alfred Yates rents a room to a woman called Leah, who later, surprise surprise, gets attacked in the bathtub. This is of course a reference to Norman Bates from the movie Psycho, and it's not the only one. You can visit Zomboid's version of the Bates Motel, cleverly called the Waits Motel, in a trailer park in Muldrow. The motel doesn't look exactly like the original, and there are no other hints of Norman Bates or his mother, at least that I could find, but the name is too close to be a coincidence. The next reference on this list is hard to miss, especially since there are 2 locations with the same name. The Goodman Legal Services building is a reference to Saul Goodman from the hit TV show Breaking Bad and later his own show Better Call Saul. If you haven't seen Breaking Bad, you should, because then you can tell me if this next reference makes sense. So there's this house in the middle of nowhere in Muldrow surrounded by a fence. Inside the building, there's a microscope and burn marks all over the floor, and the cabinets have some weird variation of cooking pots, matches, and surgical gloves. It seems like someone was definitely cooking, but is it a Breaking Bad reference or just your average illegal lab? Let me know what you think in the comments below. The next location you're not gonna wanna miss is the Windows Store. One of the most unique shops in Louisville, it's an obvious reference to the Windows operating system, but the store sells exactly what it advertises: different types of windows and colored curtains. Too bad you can't use them to decorate your base. Unlike the next item, which makes a killer base decoration. David the Gnome, also known as Noam Chomsky from Left 4 Dead 2, is scattered all over the world in Project Zomboid. And if you listen to the community, he's also apparently a haunted, soul-eating demon that occasionally likes to teleport to random places, but is also fun to talk to. So get one, I guess? Another notorious killer you can find haunting the map is Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask wearing main character from the Friday the 13th franchise. This is actually one of the game's random building stories, so you'll often find him in a house filled with all of his victims. The good part is that you can loot him for a guaranteed machete, one of the best weapons in the game. A more reliable way to get your hands on some good loot though is by checking out the Aaron hunting supply store in Louisville. In case you haven't seen it, this is a reference to an old Key and Peele sketch where a substitute teacher misreads all of the student names, and Aaron was his take on Aaron. In case you want to see it, I'll put a link to it in the description. Speaking of names, have you ever wondered what all those random names you see graffitied on the sides of buildings are all about? Turns out, some of them are real names of people working on Project Zomboid. Apparently, even the strange town of Tanglewood is a reference to Tanglewood Games, a game studio helping to work on Zomboid. This isn't the only mention of the developers in-game. Their faces appear on random objects and items as well. For example, the lunchbox has 2 variants. The blue version has a picture of a turtle referencing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the pink one is just the face of one of the developers surrounded by love hearts. A different developer's face appears on a rare version of a t-shirt as well. One of the most overlooked references to the Indie Stone is also one of the biggest. TIS Construction has 2 locations, an office in Louisville, and a massive construction site on the outskirts of Muldraugh. TIS, of course, stands for the Indie Stone, making it an Indie Stone construction. Very clever. The biggest inspiration for the zombies in Project Zomboid came from George A. Romero, an American-Canadian film director and writer. So it's no surprise that the Indie Stone decided to honor his work by including a Romero Center for Performing Arts in Louisville. Speaking of the arts, did you know that there are a bunch of replicas of real-life art pieces in the Gallery of Louisville? There's the sculpture of David facing a wall for some reason, a toilet, which is a reference to an art piece fountain, and a Spiffo burger drawn in the style of Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe. There's also this bed surrounded by glass. If you know what that's referencing, please let me know in the comments below. I have no idea. Another work of art the devs decided to reference is the movie Ghostbusters, or, in classic Zomboid fashion, Ghoul Stoppers. In this version of the movie, they come across a ghoul who can summon anything they think about, and one of the guys is unlucky enough to think of Spiffo. And of course, we can't talk about 90s TV without including The Simpsons. In the Project Zomboid version, they're called the Thompsons, with bald unfortunate Herb and his loving wife Marie. There are 5 episodes to the show, each with a different insane story. And while Star Trek did not get its own set of episodes, there is a small nod to the long-running series in the character creator, where you can choose the Picard as a hairstyle. In case you're wondering, this is what it looks like. And if you've ever wondered where Spiffo came from and why he's literally everywhere, on posters, on TV, at the movies, and even on pinball machines, it's because the raccoon was originally designed as a character for Pause, a fighting game that the Indie Stone was working on that was never released. They probably no longer had a use for the assets, so they just incorporated them into Project Zomboid. And finally, the most complicated reference has to be the classified radio station. So there's this radio channel in the game that only broadcasts numbers, and they're the same number every single time. You find it randomly, and for a long time, nobody could figure out what it meant. Until one day, some clever soul realized that the pauses are actually significant, and that those numbers are coordinates. When they punched them into a real-world map, it led them to Fort Knox in Kentucky, which is no mere coincidence. What's your favorite Easter egg? Let me know in the comments below, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.